You're listening to KDPS 88.1. Today's guest is Jay Fitter. He's a family therapist with over 20 years of practice, and he has taught numerous parenting classes. He has a book out right now. It's in stores, Respect Your Children, A Practical Guide to Effective Parenting, and he joins us now here on KDPS 88.1. Jay, how are you doing today?
Great. Thank you for having me on your show.
Not at all. Love to have you on. Your book is titled Respect Your Children. When I was growing up, it was you respect your elders. What seems to be missing from that?
Well, there's always been that sense of respect your elders, and this book is not contrary to that. It's the idea that so many parents, the way they interact with their children, they treat them often with no respect. And respect is not the same as giving away authority. And sometimes I'll talk to parents and they'll say, I can't respect my children, I can't let them be in control. It's nothing to do with giving control over. It's just the way you interact with them. It's the difference between explaining things to them and saying, because I said so. Or having a bad day at work and coming home and feeling like it's okay to take it out on the kids because they're the only safe ones. I mean, you can say things and do things to your children that you couldn't do to someone at work because you'd lose your job.
As far as now, you're calling that respect. To me, that's I guess I would see that as just being a loving parent. Are we maybe thinking the same thing and then just calling it different names?
Well, in some cases it may be that, but I think that the vast majority of parents love their children. They just don't know how to interact with them. They don't know how to show respect for them because most parents learn how to be parents, from their own parents. And sometimes we had good role models, but a lot of times we didn't have good role models. And, I'll often hear parents say to me, hey, it was good enough for me, so it's good enough for my kid. And they just don't know how because they never learned, how to treat their children, how to interact, how to develop effective communication. They never learned the difference between, for example, punishment and discipline. How to discipline being with a goal of teaching and correcting and helping your child, whereas punishment is very often done out of anger and retaliation and such like that. So it doesn't mean they don't love them. It's just that often they don't take the time or don't have the skills or haven't learned how to be a respectful parent.
Now, a lot of people would say that you really have to watch the line on that, though, because you risk the danger of not being a parent and being more of a peer. Instead of you try to beat a friend to them instead of maybe being a parent when they need someone to mentor them at a young age. So how do you keep that line where the way it should be?
Well, and I do work with parents a lot on that. The idea is that you're not your child's friend. Your children have plenty of friends. They only have one set of parents. And so it's not, your goal is not to be popular with them, not to make them always happy with your decisions, but it's a matter of treating them in such a way. It's sort of like our children are probably the only people in the world that we would sacrifice our lives for. If they were in harm's way, we would move them out of the way and sacrifice ourselves to protect our children. And there's probably very few other people around us that we would do that. We wouldn't do it with our coworkers for the most part, or our friends and such like that. But at the same time, we have trouble, when there's a parent-teacher conference, saying, I just can't do it, I don't have time. And not realizing, or when your child comes home from school and says, gee, you know what, we did this really cool thing in school, I drew this neat picture, and saying, yeah, that's nice, but why didn't you clean your room? So it's a matter of you are the parent, you're in charge, you're not giving up responsibility, but you're treating them with someone, as someone who is one of the most important people in the world to you.
Jay Fitter, he is a practicing family therapist in Orange, California. He is with us here today on KDPS 88.1. In the latest Gallup poll, Jay, it said that Americans perceive lack of discipline to be the biggest problem in public education today. Is it your opinion then that lack of respect towards children is a leading cause of this?
I think it's a big contribution. If you look in schools and you see kids who are the bullies, who are the troublemakers, and you look at their home life, and obviously there's exceptions, but in the vast majority, you'll find kids who, when they do something wrong, their dad, they get hit. They get, they are often victims of abuse themselves, and so they're just kind of continuing out the way they've learned to interact. And that's the idea of respect. As parents, if they are respectful in how they interact with their children, the children learn because the parents are the role model. They learn to be respectful and learn to be appropriate as far as in school with their teachers and with their peers.
Jay, your top advice for young parents?
Well, I think that, one of the things I think, take a look at the book Respect Your Children, because it's designed to break cycles. And so often, I work with kids who've been in juvenile hall, who've been in gang affiliation, who've committed sexual offenses, all the extreme kinds of issues. And the vast majority of times you see it coming from generation to generation. Is young parents realize that they can be a generation of change. They do not have to pass on just because maybe there wasn't education, there wasn't love, there wasn't, values and things in their life growing up, doesn't mean they can't do it. These are skills that they can learn, and it's not that difficult, that they can learn how to break the negative cycles that maybe they've experienced in their lives.
Thank you, Jay Fitter, for joining us here on KDPS 88.1. And as we mentioned, you have your book out, Respect Your Children. That is in stores now. Thank you, Jay Fitter, for joining us here on KDPS 88.1.